Ain't no surprise I didn't get these scars from falling over in church. I told some lies, broke some laws and ties instead of good hard work. When I die, I'll take nothing that I took down in the dirt. Lord, I'll cry and I'll be avenged by all those I hurt.
Well, hello there. It's been a while. New song. Jake Stringer. Big shout out to Jake Stringer. Thank you very much. Jake was my old roommate right after I got out of college, and Jake was a touring musician with, I believe it was David Allen Coe, and working at Guitar Center a little bit and followed his dreams. So there's one for everybody out there. Go ahead and follow your dreams, just like Jake Stringer, and you can end up on a podcast doing music. Me and Jake had some good times. This guy got screwed over so many times. He would come back from these tours and he'd be like, yeah, we went on tour and we were gone all week and got absolutely nothing because XYZ spent all the money on whatever they spent it on. So I don't want to get into that too much, but Jake, thank you very, very much for letting me use this song off of your new album. Today's podcast is brought to you by, let's see here, bananas. If they're good for monkeys, they're good for you. Bananas. Not the best ad read there. Let's get right into it. So I haven't done one of these in a while, and I wish I had a good enough excuse other than I just get in my own head and think, I'm not going to do one right now. I'll do one in a week. And next thing you know, it's been like 6-8 weeks and you haven't put anything out. So I'll talk more about it at the end of this because I know I had mentioned earlier that I wanted to do more podcasts. I had said that earlier this year. And to be honest, that was the intent. And intention means absolutely nothing is what I'm starting to realize, at least with me and maybe with a lot of other people. But that's part of the conversation today. Part of what I want to talk about is me being such a terrible podcaster. It's like, hey, if you want your podcast to grow, you got to put out more podcasts and put out clips and things. And I'm falling far short of that. And I'm trying to be better at it. I'm just not good at managing my time. So I'm going to work on that, try to put out some more stuff for you guys. And I have some plans. And I think that's really been the biggest thing is that I have a lot of things that I want to talk about. And it's really just trying to find my voice and narrow down the aisle in which I want to walk through. I love talking about politics. I love talking about culture. I love talking about music. I love talking about MMA. I love talking about psychology, fitness, all these different areas that I don't want to say passionate about, but I have interest in and I want to learn more about because I find them extremely fascinating. But it's more of putting something out there that I am confident in how much I know about it. And I don't want to say that I'm an expert in it, but because I think that that's really where I want to start the conversation today, or at least ask you guys in a way, and maybe you can respond in the comments and let me know. But I feel like there is a huge influx of experts out there online. And I started to kind of have this Aristotelian debate with myself, I guess, or just maybe not Aristotelian, Socratic, where I'm bouncing things off of myself, asking myself questions about it. And I eventually come to this place where I say that if everyone is an expert, then no one's an expert, because there has to be something that puts you above and beyond the rest of the people out there that makes you an expert. Like, that's what an expert is. There is this massive shift in our culture of inclusivity of like everyone's an expert, everyone's a model. And it's like, well, no, the reason there are models, the reason we say that someone is a model is because they are an image of what ideally the human form would look like if we were all without ailment, if we all had good genetics. Like, there's nothing wrong with saying that and lifting those people up in a way and saying like, yeah, like we would all like to be like this. And some of us aren't. But like, that's what an expert is essentially with knowledge, is they are someone that you hold above, and not everyone can be an expert. That's why I say I'm not an expert on fitness stuff. I know a lot of information, but I don't know information that nobody else knows. I don't know things about diet culture, fitness culture, things like that anybody can't find out. There's no new information. I have not conducted studies and put out new information, but I have looked at lots of information and tried my best to analyze it, practice it, use that information to myself, as well as provide that information out to other people and let them make a decision and decide what is best for them. And I really think that we've tried to get rid of authority in a way, and ultimately what that's done is just create other authorities. And it's this like pseudo online expert culture. And I really see this in two main areas, it seems like, online. And I'm not on social media a lot anymore. Really, I am not on Instagram, other than I think I have the apps on my iPad, but I don't really go on them. I don't have them on my phone anymore. I deleted all of the social media apps off there. The only thing that's on there that's kind of like that is YouTube, because it has shorts, and that's kind of like Reels. Occasionally, it'll steal an hour or so of my life. I'm trying to be better about that, but man, those social media sites, they will really monopolize your time if you're not safe with them. And the problem is that anybody can get on there and say anything. And yeah, you can read through the comments and you can do your own research, but a lot of people don't have time for that. And there's a lot of bad advice going around, so-called experts or someone who is popular on social media, but then they start talking about something serious like fitness or weight loss or psychology or things like that. And then they kind of become this expert. And one thing that I've noticed in a lot of those so-called experts, or these people that are looked to online, is that a lot of them point outwards for reasons. So specifically with the psychology type of thing, it's like pointing it at mom and dad being the problem, and pointing at, your past and saying it's your trauma and things like that, rather than looking to yourself. And I see that in fitness a lot too, of like blaming where you live, blaming your food choices, blaming your genetics, blaming the way that you grew up. And it's like, none of those things really actually help you with it. And I'm a big fan of Jordan Peterson, and one of the number one things that he says, I think it's one of his first not one of his first rules, but it's one of the rules that he gives in his book, is to clean your room. And that's really where it all starts. And that's metaphorical, obviously, and maybe it's literal. I've got a pretty messy room. I know if Megan was here right now, she would definitely talk about the state of my room. It is basically any room that I touch, I make a mess. She doesn't like to go in there. She doesn't like to go in my little messy areas. So all that to say, I should probably work on that literally. But I am working on that in a way, cleaning my room personally. And I mean that like trying to take stock of where I'm at and figure out what I want, where am I falling short, and just being real honest with myself. I can tell you this much: cleaning my room this time is a lot harder than it has been in the past. And I have tried to figure that out, and I've been doing some research on it. And I came across the story of a guy named Alexei Emelianenko. And Alexei Emelianenko was the brother of Fedor Emelianenko. And Fedor is probably one of the, at least in the fighting world, he's mixed martial arts. He's one of the greatest. He is an absolute animal. I think he's still even fighting today. He might be retired, but his brother was actually really stinking good too. He was phenomenal and just used to knock the snot out of people, just destroy them with no training. He was a drinker, he was a partier, and inevitably he would reach these bottoms, these lows, and those lows got lower and lower and lower every single time. It's like so think about that with the dirtiness of the room. It's like every time that you walk past your dirty room, it gets dirtier and dirtier and dirtier. And it's the same thing going day to day. It's like when you know that there's something that you need to change and you just keep ignoring it, it gets worse and worse and worse. And I've been sitting here for months going like, Zach, you have let your back be an excuse for your health. You have let your back become your identity. It has single-handedly ruined your life in a way. And it did. I've let it. I personally have let that sadness take control in a way. And I have now had to take a step back and go, what do I have to do to understand where I'm really at in the context of things? Like where do I even start cleaning? And I don't know. Like that's been something I've been trying to really figure out here over the last couple of weeks. And I would say that I want to preface this by saying my strategy for training yourself, or my strategy for cleaning your room in a way, is not a strategy I would suggest to really anybody. But I have developed healthy. I don't want to say that my version isn't healthy because I think health is subjective. So let's start there. First and foremost, the more extreme your situation that you are in, the more extreme you can be about the things that you take risk-wise. Or if you are going for a change in your life, if you have nothing, you can't really risk much, can you? If you're at the lowest point that you've been, well, I'm not saying you go and you put all your money down on black at the freaking casino like a dumbass. I'm talking about making some serious fucking change in your life. I'm talking about like grabbing life by the balls essentially and saying, I'm going to make a change. Now, I'm going to tell you my strategy for this. And the reason why I wanted to talk about the expert culture thing up front is because I don't want you to look at me as an expert. I don't want you to look at me and go, man, I'm going to word for word, verbatim, follow what Zach said he did because it worked for him and it's working for him and it always seems to work for other people in the long run. Like, I'm not saying to do that. What I'm saying is this is a strategy that I have found that works for me, and maybe follow the pattern in which I am laying out in order for you to find the right path through whatever it is that you're needing to work on. So I'm going to start at this point, which is why I do what I do. So first and foremost, I have learned about myself over the 34 years that I've been alive. And let's get rid of the first 4 because those are stupid and I don't remember them, whatever. So we're just talking about the last 30 years, the stuff I can remember. I have been, or at least struggled, probably since I was around 9 with weight, health, things like that. Just being lazy and fat. And I fall into those cycles of being a lazy, fat slob, just a total beta male, just a worthless human being, essentially. I fall into habits of that, and I'm not too ashamed to say it because my understanding of that allows me to justify what I do to myself in order to prepare for change. So I've struggled with that for a long, long, long time, and a lot of my identity has been tied up in that I was fat or out of shape or all those things, and I've had to get to this place where I learn to separate that part of my identity. I don't want to say it's like disassociation, but it's more of saying that I am not that person anymore, and I'm not going to let that person control my life anymore. I'm no longer going to let fat, lazy bitch Zach control my life, and I'm going to take charge. And now how I do that is the same way that I would train a dog, essentially. I'm going to pick one thing in my list of things that I want to change. Maybe there's a lot of things in your life right now. Maybe you want to lose weight, you want to quit smoking, you want to start saving money, you want to run a marathon, you want to go to the Grand Canyon. I don't know, whatever it is. Like, those are all things that at some point in my life I've wanted to do or done. So those are the first ones that come to mind. For you, it could be anything. But you may not even necessarily know what you want in the end goal, but you have an idea of what you want. Now, for me personally, this is why I always start with a fast. And fasting for me is not about losing the weight. So if there's anybody out there that's doing water fast and juice fast with the idea that you're going to lose weight, yeah, you're probably going to lose some weight, but you're doing it for all the wrong reasons, all of the wrong reasons. A fast is something metaphysical. There are physical components like weight loss and pain and suffering and hunger and frustration, but those things are only circumstance to the metaphysical gains that you will get, that where your mind will be when you finally achieve the results that you're going after. Now, for me, I've noticed that 3 days is hard because the first 3 days are the hardest, but really the last 3 days are the hardest. So I like to go for at least a week, and I go a week, no eating. That's at least always the goal. And that really lets me know how bad I want whatever it is that I'm going after. This isn't about weight loss. This isn't about fitness. This isn't about, machismo or trying to be some macho man. This is what works for me. This is essentially my secret sauce here that I'm giving to you. And the reason why it works for me is because it's the only way I can 100% assert dominance and control over myself. Now, that sounds really fucking stupid when I say it out loud, but I promise you, life is constantly a battle of me versus me. I'm rarely at odds with other people. I am rarely at odds with the things around me. It's constantly I am at odds with myself. And I feel that there are a lot of people out there that are constantly at odds with themselves rather than the people around them. If you're constantly at odds with the people around you, you're probably not that fun to be around. And to be honest, there's a reason why you're constantly at odds with the people around you, and it's because you're not willing to do the work on yourself. And that's what I constantly find in my life and the people's lives around me. And what I can tell you is the number one way for me to take back that control and for me to separate that dualism that you've heard me talk about in the past, those two different people of who's driving, the me versus me, and separate them out and really get down to it. Because let me tell you, it gets very honest very quickly. Meaning, you in a state of hunger, in a state of frustration, in a state of pain, discomfort, all those things. When you are uncomfortable, that's when the bad comes out. And what I'm essentially trying to do is put myself in a situation where I'm only frustrated and I would typically make bad decisions, and those bad decisions would result in maybe me going out and overeating or doing things like that, but I take that completely off the table. And what it forces me to do is adapt. It forces me to develop and change my mindset on things. I don't really like to talk to people about when I'm fasting and do that, because there is this weird sort of oh, look at me, I'm fasting. I'm so cool. I just don't eat. There's this weird response, especially here in the Midwest, when you just tell people in the Midwest that you're just not going to eat for a few days, just to, clear your head. They look at you like you are on another planet, and in their mind, you are on another planet, and that's completely okay. But, some people think going in the cold plunge is an effective way to get yourself into gear. Some people think the sauna. I personally have found that while those are very great for short-term gain, long-term fasting is really the way to go. And when I move away from a complete fast and I get out of where there's no food intake at all, and I start to allow food back into my life, it's generally about once a day, because I still have this element of control that I have to put over myself, which is that when I say no, it means no, and I'm going to limit what I do during certain periods of time. This is to protect myself, and I don't think a lot of people understand that. But this is 100% to protect myself, because I know that I know what I'm capable of. And the problem is now things are too risky. I have a wife, I have a kid, and like Megan still works. How fucking cool would it be if I could somehow figure it out to a point where she doesn't have to work anymore and she can stay with Teddy? That would be incredible. And I hope that I can get to a place with those things, but I know that I have to take care of more serious business first. And the problem is, for me and for so many other people, we want to jump to that final point. We just want to jump to the big happy conclusion, and we're sit in misery the whole time because we just want to go from 0 to 100, 0 to 100. And we're not willing to put in the work along the way. And this is essentially my prep before putting in the work. Now, for me personally, and I'll go more into this in further videos, like going in depth, and they'll be shorter videos. I'll do shorter in-depth dives on subjects, like 15, 20 minutes maybe, on like one real subject, or maybe I'll do a long video encompassing a very broad topic like sleep or water, weird things. Just stuff that's piqued my interest, specifically related to health. Because like I said, really interested in a lot of topics, but I want to focus on one thing. And I think that focusing in on an area that I personally have been struggling to practice what I preach lately, and I don't mean that I'm preaching this out telling people that they should be doing health stuff. I guess what I mean is I'm not doing the things that I know I should be doing with my health. I'm not getting in my exercise every day. I'm not working on my stretching and my core work that's going to help my back. And I think a lot of people out there find themselves in a place where they know, just like me, you are sitting here maybe still listening going, man, I know there's things that I need to change in my life, but I don't really know where to start. This is an option. I'm not saying to start here. And really the key to all of this is to study your history. I've had to study my history to learn what actually works for me when it comes to developing discipline. But okay, everybody at some point in their life, everybody has wanted something. There's been something that they've wanted, whether it be a bike, a car, lose weight, to get married, find a girlfriend, and they've worked for it and they've gotten it. They've achieved the thing that they've wanted. There's something. It could be very small. It doesn't, I can remember a very specific time when I was 10 or 12 years old. I was living in Sacramento. I had a birthday coming up, and I really wanted, the scooters were just getting big. So yeah, it had to be around 2000, 2002. And I wanted a micro or a Razor scooter, one of those scooters. And Walmart still did layaway. So I went down to Walmart and put $5 on a scooter because they were selling like crazy. So I found the one that I wanted, put it on layaway, and I was just going to sit there and pay and pay and pay. And I remember mowing the lawns and setting the $5 apart, setting $5 aside for mowing the lawn and this and that. And then my birthday came and it topped me off and allowed me to get the scooter and pay the rest of it off. And I can remember doing the layaway on that thing and it being so much more rewarding to have that. And there's this society we live in now where waiting is almost like worthless, that there is this, I don't want to say that it's like a classism thing, but it's like, I can afford Amazon Prime, so I think everything should be like Amazon Prime. It's like, that's not how everything works, but that's how we want all of our problems solved, is we want an Amazon Prime solution. And that's just not how it is. It's not how it is at all. And when you study your history, you find the solution. You're not going to find the solution studying somebody else. You're not going to find the solution studying me or looking at what I did. I'm trying to give examples to point you in the direction of where to look in your own life. That's legit what it is. It is looking at where you are at and going, what decisions have I made that have landed me here? When in the past have I made decisions that have turned out to be good decisions? Why were they good decisions? What things can I do to replicate that pattern over and over again? And for me, it's constantly comes down to fasting. It comes down to eating the right things. It comes down to exercising on a daily basis. It comes down to not playing lots of video games. And when I find myself falling back into those cycles, smoking lots of pot, doing things that I know are not going to move me closer to that, and I continue to do them, I just sit in my dirty room. I sit in my filth, and I'm not happy. I know I stink. I know my room's disgusting, but what am I going to do about it? There's this powerlessness, and that's why fasting works for me, because all I have to do is just say, I'm not going to eat lunch. I'm going to skip it. And I assert some power over myself, and I'm going to be hungry, and I'm going to try to convince myself, dude, you should eat. I mean, you're hungry. Why wouldn't you eat? Just eat something small. A couple 100 calories. It's not going to hurt. And it's like, no, it's the idea of I made a decision. I'm sticking to it. And I have the control and the self-will right here to not put food in my mouth. I'm going to keep this hand as far away from my mouth as possible. And that little bit of control that you assert over yourself pays dividends. And the more often you can learn to assert control over yourself and win those me versus me battles, the better off you're going to be. And the problem is I'm losing every fucking match I play. Every one I play, I'm losing them. And I'm losing bad. Like, it's not even close in a lot of these things lately. I have been in a place that I would just say is mentally weak. And that has put me in a place where I don't do these podcasts, because it's like I sell myself some bullshit lie that, I'm just wasting my time or doing this. And it's like, you know what? Maybe right now, but in the long run, I know this is what I want to be doing with my voice, is putting out information that's helpful to people. But the problem is I feel like a hypocrite sometimes, and I got to start working on that. And that's where I'm at. So I'm being 100%. I'm laying this all out here, and I want to do this with you guys because I know there are a lot of people who feel the same way that I feel, who might not have the balls to say it, or might have the balls to say it, but you just don't have anyone to say it to. Well, I'm here with you. And I'm going to find a way to get comfortable with my discomfort, and I'm hoping that you're going to do the same in your own way, whatever it is. For me, my mental health is based a lot on, like I said, the way that I look and the way that I feel. And because I was so obese and so overweight for so long, that identity became part of me, that victimhood, and I'm trying to get rid of it. And the best way for me to get rid of it is to starve that person. Starve that person. And I mean literal. Like, I'm not saying that there's like a bipolar person or that I'm like got some split personality or something, but there's just two voices that want to speak. There's a voice within me that wants to be that man, that wants to retire his wife, that wants to, be a leader of men around me and women around me and help as many people as I can. And then the other part of me feels completely incapable, and I've been losing to that person lately for some reason. If you constantly are finding yourself losing those battles, maybe it's time for you to do something about it. Like fast. Like put yourself in a difficult situation that forces you to either stick to your guns or to cave in. And then you're going to find out real quick how bad you want it. Because let me tell you, first couple days you don't eat, you're going to find out very, very quick how much you want whatever it is you think you want. Especially if you convince yourself and you play little mind games with yourself that like you have to do this. And I think that that's really, for me, where I focus it into, is it is a game to me. It's a challenge. And it's not me versus someone else on the internet who did a fast. It's not me against, Joe Rogan, who's got a big freaking podcast. He doesn't even know a guy like me exists. Like, do you realize that we do that? I do that. We all do that to this extent where we kind of compare ourselves to people that are completely outside of our realm. And then we're so disappointed with our results. It's like, just keep going. Just keep going. And just keep fighting that you versus you. And I'm going to keep fighting my me versus me, and we're going to fight those together. But I'm not saying it's not going to be a challenge and it's not going to be miserable at times. We all face challenges in whatever it is that we're working on in life. And yeah, it's fucked up, but not everybody faces the same difficulty of challenges. There are people who have an element of less challenge, and some people nowadays want to call that privilege or whatever it is, but it has nothing to do with the color of someone's skin or their race or their gender or whatever. It has nothing to do with any of that. It really has to do with how you play that hand, essentially. So you can either play the hand and lose and then complain to everybody, man, I got such a bad hand. Or you can try your best to work that hand and come out to fight another one, play another one, however you want to work that analogy. It isn't going to be the same for everybody. I have had clients that have had a real miserable time working with me, and I've had clients that have had a great time working with me. And I can tell you that some of these clients, like, I'm not going to say names, but I had a girl client and I feel terrible for her because she had an autoimmune disease and it would just leave her in pain all over her skin, like welts. And that would prevent her from being able to exercise, that pain. Now, I'm going through a very similar thing with my back, and I don't want to say that that is excusable to not exercise. And this is where it gets tough, because while I really like that person and I hope the best for them, I don't ever want to give them an excuse, because I think as soon as we start giving ourselves excuses for why we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing, we've immediately lost. There's really a very minimal chance of things ending up in a good positive light in all reality once you kind of tell yourself that, well, I've lost this thing. But what I can tell you is I can't fight your particular fight. I can fight my fight, and I'm going to be fighting my fight, and I'm asking you to join in and fight your fight, and let me know in the comments. Let me know what's going on with where you're at and how you're fighting, what you're fighting for, and if I can help. And if you have questions, send me questions. I love answering questions for people because it forces me to do research. I rarely like to just assume that I know something. I want to find the right answer. I would rather find the right answer than the quick answer. I'm going to wrap this one up here soon, but I told you I was going to tell you a little bit more about the future stuff with the podcast, and I'll close with one thing and I'll tell you about the future. Be very cautious of what people are telling you online. Does it pass the smell test? Do some research. If you're trying to change an area of your life, like say, for example, you want to stop looking at porn or you want to stop smoking, there are going to be a lot of different people online that have had your struggle, and they're going to claim that they have the best solution for your struggle. I've figured it out. I've helped 100 men quit smoking. I've helped 1,000 guys quit looking at porn, whatever it is. They are going to try to sell you that. And be skeptical. It's good to be skeptical. I'm not saying not to trust people, but I'm saying be skeptical of information that seems too good to be true, or wild claims like I am the best, or I am the expert, or the number one, the leader. You're going to see a lot of things, online about it. But really, if they're not providing any information as to how they're doing this, practical application, then all they're trying to do is get your money and get you behind a paywall where then they can sell you some basic ass course. And I can tell you more about coaching another time and why fitness trainers and all that stuff is a big scam. But I just mean in general, everyone wants to sell you something. Like, I have been studying mycology a lot lately, and I've been trying to learn as much as I can about mushrooms online. We're getting ready to move into our late summer, fall mushroom blooms, and there are some really, really cool species that I've been finding lately. I think I've found almost 100 species of mushrooms this year, like unique species of mushrooms. And it's gotten to a point where I want to learn how to cultivate. So I've started buying some books and things. And I find these people online that are just putting out this incredible content about mushroom growing and stuff, and it's all free. But then I start seeing ads of people that want to sell you their course or this for $149. And it's like, they don't tell you anything that they're going to teach you in their course other than we're going to teach you how to do it. And it's $99. And then they have some bigger ticket item or whatever it is, or they want to sell you products. I say all that because I don't want people to fall victim for things that I have fallen victim for, but I also think it's a great way to learn a lesson. So do your research, be skeptical. Maybe you pick the right person, maybe you don't. Maybe you find some helpful information. I'm not saying only helpful information is free. There's a lot of great paid information out there, but there's no reason to start paying for information until you've consumed as much free information as possible and learned how to think critically about it and determine what passes the smell test and what doesn't. That's really where I'm encouraging you, is just to think critical. Do the research and think critically. And I'm going to do my best to present a series of, I guess, I don't want to say lectures, but a series of podcasts that I talk about topics that I have studied and done research on that I was curious about. And a lot of them are health related. A lot of them are fitness related. But the reason I want to share that information is because I have found it to be very helpful to my overall well-being. And I don't just mean my physical health. I'm talking about multiple areas of my life, the way I sleep, the way, I make food decisions, the relationship that I have with my wife and son. A lot of these things are tied in together, and I am doing my best to get all that back in order, I guess I could say, because it's gone unattended, it's gone uncleaned, and I want to share some information that I have found that I'm going to be using and to be very helpful. I hope you'll join along with me. But I'm going to let Jake send us out here, and Jake had a big Johnny Cash poster in our kitchen, him flipping the bird. This one's for you, Jake.
Said what I had to say to make it day by day.